Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us this morning for home staging. It's a very dynamic marketing tool for everybody, and our three stagers are going to share everything with you this morning. The first person I want to introduce is Janie Jensen. She is the owner of Always the Best Home Staging. It's a boutique home staging business here in Santa Clara County. She has been a professional stager for 5 years and stages throughout the Bay Area. She's the current president of the Silicon Valley chapter of the Real Estate Staging Association. She's also an affiliate committee member at SCORE, so you may have seen her at some brunch and learns as well. Next, we have Lily Raybar. She's the owner of Simplistic Staging by LJR, and she's had her business since 2007. And she started because a family relative who's a real estate agent thought that she did a really great job doing little staging in owner-occupied homes. And then she's now doing some vacant homes as well. She stages primarily in the Bay Area, and she's also here in Santa Clara County. And finally, we have Pamela Bender. She's the owner of Citrus Interiors. It's a design and staging firm here in Silicon Valley and also in the greater Bay Area. She's a professional stager and interior designer. She specializes in space planning, color, and surface design to showcase properties. She's also a member, and I believe Lily probably is too, of the Real Estate Staging Association. So I want to welcome Janie, Lily, and Pamela. And we'll go ahead and get started.
Great, thank you, Jody. As Jody said, staging is definitely a dynamic marketing tool for both sellers, agents, and for clients who are looking to have stagers. So I'm just going to briefly go over the agenda. We're going to talk today about some benefits of staging. We're going to talk about curb appeal. We're going to give you 5 basic tips on how to make sure your house is in tip-top shape when you're putting it on the market. We're going to talk about different staging techniques, and we're going to talk about staging being an artistic as well as a creative process, something that some of you probably have never thought about before. We're going to talk about the different staging styles. We're also going to talk about the process and the costs involved in staging. What is included in a stager's fee? We're going to talk about developing your team, or what we like to call your arsenal of vendors. What to look for when you're choosing a stager, I beg your pardon. Client care and communication. And of course, we could not have a presentation without talking about COVID-19 guidelines and how that applies to stagers. And we're going to talk about some examples of staging. I will ask that you keep your questions till the end. You can go ahead and put them in the chat box as we go over a process or we go over a topic so that you don't forget about it, but we will not be answering them till the end. And I just want to say that we all do what we love, and we love what we do. We all love staging. We love our jobs. So hopefully we can help you out. Okay. Jody, can I have the next one?
Good morning, everybody. My name is Lily Rabar, and I'm going to go through a couple of the slides, and then I'm going to pass the torch on to Pamela Bender. This first slide is going to talk about the benefits of staging. The first impressions are made within the 15 and 30 seconds as the buyers walk in the door. They walk through the living room, the dining room, the kitchen, and at that point, they pretty much have an idea if this home is going to fit their needs. So it's always important to have those rooms staged. It also helps create a visual experience and emotional warmth. The goal is to really create a warm and welcoming space that will resonate with buyers and encourage them to picture themselves living inside your client's home. According to NAR, 83% of buyers agents said staging a home made it easier for a buyer to visualize the property as a future home. And 38% of buyers agents identified that staging would positively impact the home value. Potential buyers have a hard time seeing themselves living in a vacant home or where to place furniture. Not sure the statistics, I know it's up there, but there are quite a few buyers that just, they need that guidance, they need that visual, in order to picture themselves living in your client's property. It helps identify rooms or makes use of odd spaces by creating function. And with this, it also provides a competitive edge from other homes on the market, as today's buyers use the internet when searching for homes. I like to give the example of a crumpled dollar bill versus a crisp new one. If someone hands you one that's crumpled up in a ball and the other one that's straight out of the ATM, which one are you going to grab? Probably the nice crisp new one. Staged homes sell for more money and spend less time on the market, and it's viewed by buyers as well-maintained and move-in ready. Buyers like a home that is turnkey, which is why it's important to discuss with your client that not only staging is beneficial, but it's really important to pay attention to the big issues of their home and also work on the finishing details inside the home prior to staging. This will give the buyers less reasons to ask for concessions. And it also helps agents and sellers net more dollars in less time. Next slide, please, Jody. Thank you. Curb appeal. First drive-up impression. I remember when I was looking at homes, there was this one property that I saw, and I couldn't see the house. I couldn't see the front door. I couldn't see the windows. It wasn't well maintained, and I didn't even know what the inside looked, because my concern was, if the outside is not taken care of, then what's the inside going to look like? So if a home is not well maintained outside, buyers will question how it's going to look inside, and you definitely want to maintain the front, because that really helps draw in buyers into wanting to enter into the home. You want to trim the bushes and trees, especially when they obstruct views from the window or impair walkway areas. I know there's been many times where we're arriving to stage a property and we get poked by rose thorns, or you're walking by and it kind of grabs at your shirt and pulls you back. So you definitely want to have these areas trimmed. You also want to keep the lawns trimmed and the flower beds weeded, and remove any empty flower pots. Repainting and replacing the front door is always a plus, and also to replace the hardware, doorbell, and light fixtures. People do ring the doorbell because they want to hear what kind of chime it has, and if it doesn't work, then they're going to start questioning what else doesn't work inside the home. You want to power wash the outside of the house to remove cobwebs and give a fresh, clean appearance. Nothing worse than walking up to a front door and looking up and seeing some spiders hanging and hoping that they don't land on you. So this is really important as well. And also the garage doors need to be power washed if possible. Clean windows and screens. This is important, especially when you have the photographer coming in to take pictures of the interior, and you want to make sure that they have a good visual from the living area into the backyard. So having clean windows is a plus. And use outdoor furniture to create inviting spaces. When I first started, outdoor furniture was rarely requested, but now most of the homes that I stage always ask for if we're going to put something in the front or the backyard, if there's space, because this really helps draw buyers to view the backyard, and it creates a specific ambiance, like entertaining guests, having a barbecue, or just to go somewhere outside and relax. Next slide, please. So the 5 basic tips for selling a home. As I mentioned, creating curb appeal is a plus. Clean the home, the inside and outside, and detail it like a car that you would sell, because once you put the house on the market, it's now a product. So you definitely want to make sure that everything is, as we mentioned earlier, move-in ready. Eliminate clutter and depersonalize and neutralize. That really pertains to more owner-occupied homes. If the seller will be living in the property, you kind of want to go through the home, maybe give them your suggestions, and then if you have a stager on your team, have them come in and just kind of confirm everything that you may have mentioned to the seller. Eliminating clutter could be just packing away a lot of their personal items. They have a coffee table that has a lot of books, like my house. You definitely want to, put those things away, keep it to a minimum. We always say less is more. And depersonalizing is really kind of removing all the family photos, diplomas, anything that is personal to that seller. because as buyers come into the home, they want to visualize themselves living in the home. And when they see these items around the house, they feel more like they're visiting the home as opposed to looking to buy. Optimize, stage the rooms to highlight the focal point and showcase the architect of the space. So this would also pertain to some rooms that may be like an odd shape, or if there's a room that has French doors that lead out to the backyard. Those are rooms that would be important to stage to give people an idea that maybe this room could be a guest room or it could be showcased as an office. Staging types. So there's 3 different staging types, and this really depends on the budget of the client or the agent, whomever is paying. Entire house would be the entire home, living room, the common rooms, living room, family room, all bedrooms. And then the common rooms would be the living room, the dining room, the kitchen, and master bedroom. So when I do previews, I always ask my clients what their budget is and if they want the whole house staged or just the common rooms. Because as we mentioned earlier, you have about 15 to 30 seconds to make that first impression, and it's usually done within those 4 rooms. Owner-occupied homes would include a walk and talk, declutter, and providing accessories. So with owner-occupieds, a walk and talk is when the stager would go into the property and go through every room, taking notes, taking pictures, making suggestions on where to place furniture, maybe do a little rearranging, making suggestions on things that they need to pack and put away. And I always ask my clients if they have a space, if they have a storage unit or a pod, or even one part of the garage that they can be able to pack some of their items. And the decluttering, again, would basically be going through every room, making suggestions on things that they need to put away. If they have a closet full of clothes and it's the summertime, I would suggest that they pack all their winter clothes away just so that people can see the closets, because people will open closets. They will open kitchen cabinets. They want to see the features of these cabinets. They want to see if the drawers pull out, if there's a lazy Susan. So I always recommend that they kind of organize these items within the rooms that we would be staging. And some stagers do provide accessories, and some do not provide soft goods. And soft goods pertain to towels, bedding, shower curtains, pillows, area rugs. Some have to do with just they're going to be used, and it's just best to have the client provide these accessories, these towels, whether they can use them at their next home. So if they do not have time, then the stager can purchase these items and they'll just add it to their proposal fee. And then consultation only. There are some stagers that just do that. They provide a consultation. They have a fee for each home depending on the size of the home and the work that's involved, and they'll provide a detailed report and they submit it to the seller. And it's really up to the seller to decide if they're going to take the recommendations and if they're going to follow it. It's kind of like their homework. If they want to get top dollar, then it's always best to kind of go by what the stager is suggesting. Next slide, please.
The purpose of staging is to present the property to be visually appealing so the buyers can see themselves in the home. Also keeping in mind the flow of each room, creating spaces and to navigate and show more square footage. This staging is a creative and artistic process. It takes time to develop a design and incorporate into the style of the architecture. Color is used to complement and provide an integrated look throughout the property. Furniture is added to the scale of each room, while artwork and accessories are used to provide balance and visual interest. Occasionally, questions arise about staging versus interior design. Design is a discipline that follows specific principles. In staging, we don't always have the luxury or the freedom to follow these. Next. As mentioned earlier, furniture, art, and accessories are chosen to complement the architecture and style of the home and the demographics. As an example, you would not put modern furniture in a Victorian home, nor in a brand new townhouse, you wouldn't put traditional furniture. Some of the styles that we basically use are transitional, which is a melding of traditional and contemporary. These elements allow more flexibility for us as stagers. Then there is contemporary. It refers to the style of the present, using clean lines, soft and casual inviting furniture. And this is where less is more. Modern, you may have known mid-century, which was mostly during the 40s and 60s, and you tend to see mid-century more in Eichlers. Most of modern, however, is large open spaces, glass, geometric shapes, low profile sofas and tables, and relaxed chairs. Slide. So, introducing staging to your clients. Staging a property is a process, and I'm talking about vacant right now. The client needs to understand that staging is used to sell the house, not to design their home. Sometimes there's confusion of what they would like to have versus what the stagers are recommending. Recommendations may be made to remove certain fixtures or hangings in the house. Repairs need to be made at that time, anything that's glaring. Painting if necessary. Carpet shampooed and replaced. Carpet shampooed and replaced if necessary. And really important to have the house professionally deep cleaned. Currently, we require all trades, homeowners, and any other persons not in the staging group to not be present during this process. As an agent, set realistic budgets and timetables for your client. Work on a marketing calendar and finalize with your client who will be financially responsible for the staging. COVID does have an impact on our overall process. Remember, we need time to schedule all of our services. Next, please. The stager's fee. Approximately, staging takes about 12 to 20 hours, depending upon each project and each home. Our fees will generally include a short time to preview, come up with a design plan, selecting proper furniture, art, accessories, labor to wrap, pack, load into the house, and stage. Other expenses are assistance, additional labor, movers, gas, furniture, inventory, business and liability insurance, payroll, warehouse storage. These are just a few examples of what we have, and they may or may not be included. Each stager has a little bit different. Occasionally, we receive interesting requests, such as items not included in the quote, large pool animals, pool tables, barbecue pits. If these are acquired, they're usually are at an additional expense. So we do have our marketing and advertising and trade association fees. The majority of stagers are small business owners. We're very serious about our projects. We love what we do. And the best result of all staging is the house sold.
Okay. Thank you, Pamela. I'm going to talk about developing your team, and I'm not talking about your real estate team, but this is part of your real estate team. We call it your arsenal of vendors. Pamela touched on a few of these things. So first thing is cleaners. It is extremely important that you get professional cleaners, not the cleaner that your homeowner uses every other week to clean, because they are in there for a few minutes, specific time. They do certain things. They don't do deep cleaning, such as looking through all of the kitchen counters and cleaning out the spilled syrup or the spilled ketchup, going through the refrigerator, completely cleaning it. So when we are talking about cleaners, get professional cleaners. Same thing with window washers. Normally, cleaners are not window washers. They don't have the equipment that's needed. They don't have the large ladders. They don't have the right type of squeegees. And if those windows aren't cleaned properly, they're not going to look good in the pictures, and they're certainly not going to look good when people come to visit, potential buyers. The next thing is painters. It is really important, again, that you have a professional painter. And if in fact, excuse me, we have people who say, well, I can paint my own house. Maybe they can, but I certainly wanted to look at some examples before you say, okay, go ahead and paint the house. People are going to tell you, well, I had my house painted 5 years ago. Why do I need to have it done again? Because when they take things off the walls, you're going to be able to tell what was on the wall before. You're going to have big spots. So you definitely want to have the entire thing painted. The next thing is a handyman. You really need to have a good handyman on your team, someone who's going to come in and fix locks. There's nothing worse than coming up to a door and trying to unlock the door, and the lock either doesn't work, it falls off in your hand or whatever. You go into the kitchen, all of the knobs are different or they're missing. So you need someone who's going to replace those items. Go room by room with that handyman and let the handyman know what needs to be done. Sometimes you actually will need to have a contractor. If you need to have a room that was never finished, you're going to need to have a contractor. If you need to have something replaced, again, you're going to need to have a contractor. The next one is a gardener, or in some cases, a professional landscaper, not someone who's just going to blow and go. There's nothing worse than having the gardener or the landscaper or even the homeowner put in all new plants and put in gorgeous flowers and having things look good. But sometimes agents forget to ask who's going to water that property if the home is vacant. And I have gone to homes to get ready to stage after the plants of things have been put in. And a week later, the grass is already starting to die. So find out who's going to actually be doing that. The next thing is the stager. The stager becomes part of your team. So make sure that you communicate it to the stager when they should be there, after all of those things are done. There is nothing worse than getting ready to stage a home and you go there and the cleaners are still there. And the real estate agent is saying to you, well, you can work around each other. No, we cannot work around each other. Absolutely not work around each other. In some instances, I have scheduled the staging for a particular day. I get there, the house is not cleaned. I will come back and say, I'm going to come back the next day. Now, if my movers are already on the way and we can't cancel them, that's going to mean extra money. So it's really important to make sure stager is the next to the last person. That last person should be your professional photographer, and talk with the photographer about what type of services they're going to provide for you. Find out what they do provide, because a lot of photographers provide different types of services. High definition resolution versus basic photography. If you have a property that has a lot of acreage, you definitely want to invest in a photographer who can do drones for you. And the drones, because you want to see what's on the property. It might be a property that's in the mountains where you've got a gorgeous view. You want to have a drone showing that. And drones are also ideal for showing the surrounding areas. So this is your team. If you don't have any of these people, ask your colleagues, who do you use for this? Who do you use for that? And give people time in order to get things done. The one thing that is important to keep in mind because of COVID-19, and we'll go into this a little bit later, but they cannot all be in the house at the same time. So that's really important. You're not going to be able to have somebody washing the windows while you have somebody else laying carpet. So you consideration that's really very important. Okay, can I have the next slide? Okay. What to look for when you're choosing a stager. A professional website, or you can ask the stager for some recent MLS listings. Possibly it's a new stager, but they definitely need to have a professional website. And like I said, there are stagers. Sometimes we just get so busy, we don't have time to update our websites. So ask for some recent MLS listings. Business liability insurance. This is a must for a professional stager. I'm going to just tell you a really interesting little scary type of situation that I had. When I was a new stager, my assistant and I were staging a home that was vacant. We put down an area rug. The ends of the rug would not lay down. So my assistant said, well, let's use some Gorilla Tape on it. So Gorilla Tape is great for holding things, trust me. House sells, the agent says to me, okay, you need to get your stuff out. Going to have a meeting tomorrow morning with the walkthrough with the other buyer's agent and the buyer. So we take all of our stuff out. We take the rug up. There is Gorilla Tape is on the floor. It has now melted. There is goo everywhere. I am trying everything I can to get this up. The agent comes by and looks at this and he says, do you have liability insurance? And I look at him and I said, yes, why? And he said, because if you can't get that up, that means that it's going to have to be refinishing the hardwood floors. That really brought it home as to why I needed to have liability insurance. Luckily, I got on Google and YouTube and everything, and I was able to find how to get the tape up, probably about an hour before the buyer's agent got there. Okay, next thing is when you're choosing a stager, ask for some testimonials from other agents. They should definitely have some testimonials and call those other agents. Or if it's a new stager, ask for references, call them. Don't just take what the stager says, give them a call. And during that initial call, when you are talking with the stager, ask some questions and determine if there's going to be a fit for the two of you to go forward. You can ask how they have worked with agents before, how they like to work, and just spend some time. Not just, are you available to stage a house tomorrow morning? Because the answer is probably no, I cannot stage it tomorrow morning. I had one agent who called me at 9:30 at night wanting me to stage a house the next day. Didn't happen. Okay, can I have the next slide, please? Okay, talking about COVID. Our staging association, our chapter, put together some guidelines, and we sent this out to all of our chapter members to say, these are some things that you need to take into consideration because of COVID-19. We looked at the CDC website and to get some guidelines there. So we are telling our agents, and you might ask this with any stager that you're working for, that all team members are going to wear face masks at all times. Yes, they're a pain in the neck, but we have no choice, okay? And they're also going to be using gloves. The gloves are available, and in some instances, you are going to need to take off your glove, but you need to put them back on. We want to make sure that we have no one who's saying we're going to be passing on COVID to them. No, we're not. We also will have hand sanitizer or soap and water will be at that property along with paper towels. We wash our hands or we sanitize our hands when we first get there and then throughout the process of staging. We confirm with all of our team members that they have not been exposed to COVID-19. In many instances, a P that is provided by the realtor will be signed by all involved. So it's not just signed by the stager, it'll be signed by the stager, stager's assistant, the movers that move the furniture in. Now, Pamela mentioned this earlier, but I'll mention it again. We are asking that no agent should be in the home when the staging is taking place. We have to maintain social distance, and there's no way that we can be talking to an agent about what we're doing and maintaining social distance. If the home is occupied, we would prefer that the owners are not there, but if the owners are uncomfortable with that, then we're going to ask that they are in a different room or that they are outside. And keep in mind, if they decide that they want to sit outside, that's fine, but we could be there 4 or 5 hours, depending upon the size of that home. When we are working with our assistants, we also maintain social distance in the majority of the time. Sometimes it's necessary for you and the assistant to both hang up a picture, so you are not in different rooms, but we try and do that at all times. We also will provide a trash receptacle or a trash bags where we will be collecting all of the used items and we will dispose those offsite. The other thing is, and I think someone mentioned this earlier, due to COVID, have a realistic schedule when you're booking that stager. Make sure that the painters and the contractors and the photographers, that they all need to be scheduled separately because of COVID-19. So sometimes this is going to make it a little bit different than you've done in the past. Okay, next slide, please. We're going to give you now some examples of staged homes. The first one is going to be a Santa Clara 3-story townhouse. The second one is a single-story San Jose property with a great room. And the third one is a Los Gatos townhouse with a large living area and a large property that includes a family room. And we'll each tell you about those. Okay, first one is, as I said, a Santa Clara townhouse with the living and the dining area. This is what it looked like before staging. This is a home that I actually staged. The owner was the sister of a realtor, and that owner, thought she could just put her house on the market. Now, obviously, she was going to take out the moving boxes, but she was going to leave things just as they were because that's how you sell a house. The blinds were drawn because she just felt that she didn't like blinds and things being open. So she couldn't understand. And her sister insisted we're going to have this house staged. Her sister is a realtor who lived out of the area, who staged all of her properties, and decided that she was going to help her sister out. And luckily, I was the one chosen to do this. So can we have the next one to see what it looked like afterward? Here we go. Completely different look. Completely different look. I think this house sold in 5 to 6 days, if I remember correctly. One of the things that Pamela talked about earlier was the coordination of color and the flow. So as you can see, we've used, you can't see the entire thing, but we used blues. And if you look at in the dining area, and if you look over at the living room area, we've used some blues there. And the pillows that are on the sofa, as well as one of the fixtures that's on the wall.
And Jenny, just to let you know, I'm going to go back just so people can kind of get another look. And just to go back and forth just a little bit so you can see the before and after again.
Sure. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay. Next slide. I think that's Lily's.
Okay, please forgive the jackhammering that's going on. I'll make this quick because wouldn't you know it, they just started doing this today, right outside my office window. This slide, unfortunately, I didn't have the before picture, but this is the after picture. This is a home that's in the East Foothills, and it's got a beautiful view of San Jose. You can kind of see in the second shot through the window. Or the patio. There's about another patio door on the other side where the dining table is, but this is considered a great room. So you've got the living, dining, and kitchen area. And when I first walked in, my thought was, wow, we're going to need a lot of furniture to fill in these spaces. And I think that's where staging is very important, because I'm sure most buyers would probably walk in going, well, where are we going to put our TV? Where are we going to have our dining table? So this gives buyers a really good visual. And luckily, the home that they had remodeled it, they had on one side of the wall 2 surround sound speakers. So that kind of solved the problem as to where the TV would be placed. So we have the faux TVs that we use a lot for tri-levels, because everybody wants to know where they're going to watch TV. And we had the furniture pretty much anchored around in the middle there, to give people an idea that this is where the family's going to sit and hang out and watch TV. But you also have a great view of San Jose. And then on the other side, we have the dining table. So this really is where the majority of the family is going to be spending a lot of time. And this one took us a long time as well. We were constantly rearranging and moving things around, but this is the after staging shot. I believe, yeah.
So the first photo on the left is a Los Gatos townhouse, and this is where less is more. The entry was a very short entry, so we didn't want to put too much furniture in this property, and just made it appealing, and worked with the architecture of the fireplace that was already existing, and the element of the circle in the fireplace, which is why we placed things that had that same element. The first impressions, again, 15 to 30 seconds that Janie mentioned in the beginning. It's so important. If they find this appealing, they're interested in going forward and looking at the other rooms. Color, texture, lighting, everything appeals to the client, and it finishes the room. In the lower, it was a large property in San Juan Bautista. It was 20 years old, 4,000 square foot. It's quite a large home. And we used the colors of green because there was an open protected space, and it was beautiful with all the pastures in the back, places that no one could ever build on. And this was just the family room to complement the overall design of the full house. And we have Lily next.
So this is just to kind of summarize what we were talking about, but these are also quotes that we've heard around our staging community. Cheap staging is not always good, and good staging is not always cheap. So when you're introducing staging to your clients, if you do not have a stager on your team, and if you're going to rely on the seller to look for one, just make sure that they do their homework and that they check out the portfolio, call their stagers, ask them questions, ask to see what homes they have out there that they can look at online. But these are things that we just, we kind of hear around our group of colleagues. And the cost of staging is always less than your first price reduction. Next slide, please. So when I first started staging 2007, I'm not sure if people remember this show. It was pretty popular. It was on every Sunday, and I was tuned in, got my notebook, and it was called Stage This House, and it had Tanya Memi and this big guy, Roger, and they were just coming up with these crazy ideas on staging homes. And, one of the biggest mistakes that some sellers make when they're trying to decide if they should stage or not to stage is that they're going to assume that the market will do the work for them. Well, why bother? But one of the quotes that she said, and I still think it applies today, is that no matter how nice your client's house is, in today's market, the worst thing to do is nothing. I wish the show was still on, but it's not. Thank you.
I think that was the end of the PowerPoint. So I just want to thank all of you. If I haven't seen any questions, obviously people are loving the work, and we'll definitely send out your contact information. I have a question, and this is something that Janie and I talked about you're staging for a buyer and not the homeowner. And I think we get some of those love it or list it type people that watch HGTV. And so what are some of those conversations that you're having maybe with the agent to help them understand that this is to sell the house, not to make your seller want to stay?
Okay, let me start that, and I think Pamela and Lily also might want to chime in on this. I think it's real important when you're having that conversation to say exactly what you said, is that we want to market this house for a wide group of people. It's really important. One of the things that is happening today because of COVID-19 is you can't have open houses, and you're not going to have any of a whole group of people coming there at a time. They're going to look at those homes online, why it's real important that you use a professional photographer, not your cell phone, to take great photos. And then they're going to look at those, and then they're going to be contacting you so that you can arrange basically a private type of showing. We want that house to be able to speak, so we say, to a large group of people, a large demographic. That's who the house should be marketed to. Figure out what that demographic is and decide how the house is going to be marketed. I do a lot of staging in the villages, and most of you know the villages is for people 55 and above. The way I would stage a house in the villages is completely different than the way I'm going to stage a house in South San Jose that's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, where they have young children who are going, or at least that's your demographic. So I think it's important for you as an agent to sit down and to have your client understand. I think Lily's had some interesting things where clients have wanted a specific type of furniture. So maybe Lily, you can talk to that.
Yeah, I've staged a lot of homes over the years, and I do get some interesting requests. But basically, I do a little bit of my homework as well. When I'm previewing a property, I'll look at some of the comps in the area just to kind of get an idea of the demographics. If there's schools nearby, I stage a lot of kids' rooms. I'll include that if they want the whole house staged, and because with the kids' room, it gives people that are going in there with their families, oh, okay, this is a nice girls' room or a boys' room. It's near an elementary school. I'll ask the agents what schools are nearby if I'm not quite sure. But that's kind of how I cater it. On when staging family homes, I do get requests sometimes for where we talked earlier about modern homes, where the client will ask me to stage using modern furniture. And I ask them, well, what's your definition of modern furniture or modern? And they say colors, bright colors. That's more of a preference in colors. It's not really a definition of modern staging, because with modern, as Pamela had mentioned, could be anywhere from mid-century. Now we've got rustic, we've got chic, we've got industrial. People will ask for restoration hardware type furniture, which we don't really carry. And if we did, that would be really on the high end. So it's important for when agents also talk to their clients to just go through that as well. And then when we come in, you are hiring us stagers as the professionals. So we do our homework. We also base it on the architect of the home and the demographics and the style. As Pamela mentioned, we're not going to put chrome in a Victorian, but these are things that we do. We may discuss with the client just to let them know, because if there are any issues, then they need to make that decision whether they want to go with the stager or use someone else. But that's kind of what we do too, is just basically going through the demographics and also checking out the comps. I don't know if Pamela has anything to add.
I agree with everything you said.
So I have another question, and this is also COVID related, but kind of on the other side of things, where You do have a lot of people that are at home now, and some of us find ourselves having to create an office space or a desk space where there wasn't one. Are you getting different requests from people now on, hey, this isn't set up for an office now, but are you being asked to maybe create an office space to show a potential buyer that there is some opportunity for that in a home?
I think sometimes we are asked to put a desk or some type of office space in a bedroom that we're not going to do a bedroom. And I think it's always good to have that because so many people are going to be working from home for another year or so.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, we do allow to do that.
Jody, one of the things that I did, I just staged a home about 3 weeks ago, and this was a large living room. And again, this was the homeowner herself had already put a desk in there. So I had to figure out how to incorporate that small area to make it an office area that was completely separate from the living room, even though it was in the living room. So it was a way of doing a transition from one small area of the living room. And like you said, luckily it was large enough and we could create it enough by facing the desk a different way than she had. So we made it not part of the living room, but just simply an area of its own. Mm-hmm. And I think you're right. We're going to have a lot of people who are actually working from home. And I think that is what a lot of agents are now starting to say is that, okay, this is a 4-bedroom house. Make one of these an office because people are now having the opportunity to stay at home. They're not going to work. They're working from home.
Mm-hmm. You talked about timelines and allowing for extra time because you can't have multiple contractors in the house at the same time. And I know that this is probably a case by case depending on the level of need for a house. But let's take a standard house and can you tell us a little bit about maybe on average from when you're first contacted from an agent that says, hey, I'd like to stage this house, to when it's complete, having all the contractors in, to maybe how much extra buffer time should somebody expect given COVID?
Pamela, you want to talk about that?
Yeah. So it depends on whether we're doing a full house or partial, generally, and what's already in the schedule. So things are heating up quite a bit now, and we'd really like a minimum of a week to 2 weeks to start putting into that schedule so we can allow enough time.
And that's kind of the new time?
Well, it's kind of the new. It depends how busy it is. So sometimes we were out at least 3 weeks, and sometimes it's a month. But currently, we're probably about 2 to 3 weeks out. But if we can put that in, we may have a window of opportunity in order to stage this particular house, and we can slip that in. But preferably minimum of 2 weeks.
Yeah, I have. Oh, I'm sorry. I have. I'm going to chime in with what Pamela said too. Especially with COVID, a lot of my clients have been calling me and booking at least a month in advance. Do you have just book me or hold a date for me in August, or when it was in June, they would ask for dates in July. And because of COVID, a lot of contractors are busy, but what I've also noticed is that there's also been a backlog where a home that I was going to stage had to be pushed back a couple of days because they couldn't get the cabinets. The cabinets were back ordered due to COVID, or the contractors were busy. And that's why I always, when they want a specific date, I'll ask them first, is the contractor going to be ready on the date that they say that they are? If they say Monday, plan on that being done on Wednesday, because things always happen. Things change. Sometimes they'll bring in carpet, but then the carpet may not fit properly, or something has to happen, or they pull the carpet, something's wrong with the hardwood floors. So I always say just to buffer, add a couple of days and then schedule us. But then also you got to schedule the cleaners and the photographers. And what I've noticed lately because of COVID is that everybody is so busy because we didn't work for March and April. everything's just kind of been backlogged. And so now everybody's trying to get the house on the market. And it does create a little chaos when you've got so many, you got the contractors wanting to do work. But, that's where we ask the agent and the client to be patient, be realistic on the calendar. I know you want to have it on Saturday, but, make sure that you got us booked, the photographer, and everything lined up.
And let me just add to that. I have an example. I'm going to be staging a house now, and it has taken the agent working with contractors and with painters and with carpets 3 weeks to get this house ready. And she had called me up and said, we're not going to be ready on the date that I thought we were. Can we push it out a couple of days? And sure, we can push it out a couple of days. I had another home where the agent wanted to get it on the market. Fine, we staged it. It was all clean. It was all painted. It was all wonderful. However, he had ordered appliances. This was a home he was paying for himself. He had ordered appliances for the sellers who had moved out of town, and the appliances were back ordered. So here we have this beautiful kitchen that has no stove, no ovens, no refrigerator, and he put pictures up. I mean, and he was just beside himself because the appliances and things were back ordered 3 weeks. So a lot of times, just to make agents aware of that, when you're doing these things, find out realistically, like Lily said, because no one was able to sell. You all weren't able to sell houses during the time that you were not considered essential. And now everyone is trying to get their house on the market. And people are just simply backed up.
I think that's a great point. I think there's a lot of people doing a lot of little DIY projects around the house and upgrading things because they've been looking at it for 3 months now, and now they want new things. So that's a great point that things that used to be readily available, appliances, cabinets, countertops, their lead times are definitely pushed out for those types of things. So we do have a question in the chat box. A couple things that I'd like to address first is this is being recorded, but if you would like, we're not going to send out the slides, but you're more than welcome. We'll get you all the contact information from Pamela, Janie, and Lily, so you can contact them directly to have these conversations with your clients. But there's a question about staging outdated homes, and that's a great question. What do you do if you've got somebody that doesn't want to put the money in maybe to new carpet or new floors, but they want to stage it, or the kitchen has yellow or green appliances or things like that? So how do you kind of make those things still look nice, but it's outdated?
Lily, you've been staging us.
I was just thinking of a house that I did a couple of weeks ago, and I was pleasantly surprised that it went into pending within a week. And the house is in a great location, and it was an older home. It had yellow, orange linoleum in a family room, and the agent said, what can you do with this? They couldn't tear it up or anything. So what I brought a cream colored carpet just to kind of, it was a big 8x10 just to help not kind of not hiding it, but you just want to take away that, just the focus on the floors. And I basically used accessories to complement the yellow, orange tile or linoleum floor, just to kind of put it together. But I use contemporary furniture, like we mentioned earlier, with transitional furniture, contemporary furniture. It can go in pretty much any home. In this neighborhood, it fit nicely in the living room and the family room, and the kitchen was very outdated. It was, and so we just brought in some updated artwork and accessories, and really just to provide a visual. And I think the person that probably purchased this home is going to remove all of that, make some changes, and really looked at more of the price of the home, the location of the home, and the size of it if it fits their needs. But I do come across a lot of homes. I walk in going, straight from the 1960s. And if they don't have a budget, then, we do what we can to just complement and just still be able to highlight the features of the home and just show that there is potential for them to do things to this house, but we just kind of give them some ideas.
Right. I'm just looking at one of the questions in the chat room about whether or not people are able to get a copy of the slide presentation. We put the slide presentation together just to help us have the information and to talk about that. We certainly would be happy, any of us would be happy to actually present a Zoom meeting at your broker's office. So if that's something that you think that your office would like and would benefit from and your broker would be happy with that, we will certainly be happy to do that for you. I wanted to add something also about the dated property. I'm doing a property right now. It's the one that I told you won't be ready for a while. We thought it was going to be ready. And what they have done, it's also dated, is they have painted it, and just painting is amazing. The difference, it's lightened it up, which is not a lot of money. The agent decided this is a house that's in probate, and so obviously the people don't want to put a lot of money into it. The agent was able to get the people to put new, inexpensive carpeting in, so we're going to go with that. But we're leaving the kitchen. The kitchen is very, very dated. And again, like Lily said, it's a matter of bringing in things that are going to take away. And anybody who buys this property already knows that they're going to need to put some money into it. It's not a walk-in and it's absolutely wonderful day. It needs some work, but they're going to get a good price. And hopefully, okay.
So I kind of have a question, and I see another question there, but I'm going to ask, what do you do, or how do you handle when the buyer comes in and falls in love with everything that you have in there and thinks, this is what I want, this is what I want it to look like, can I buy the furniture? Or can I hire your stager to come in and decorate my house for me because I love all of it?
Pamela, why don't you take that one, Pamela?
Yes.
Being an interior designer.
I have had that happen. And sometimes if they wanted to buy everything, we try and find the sources so they can have something that's fresh instead of something that we've used for staging the whole time. And many times I have been fortunate to have the opportunity to be asked to come and design their new home, or come up with design plans or space planning, colors to go in their full house. So yes, it's very flattering if that happens.
Awesome. There is a question here. What percent of realtors pay for the staging versus the seller?
That's a very good question. I actually get agents that will ask me that, new agents that are still trying to figure things out. For my clients, I would say about 75% of the agents I work with, that I have been working with for many years, do provide staging as part of their listing package. It's something that they present to their clients. I've got my painters, I got my cleaners, I got my stager. We're going to provide all this for you. And it kind of helps alleviate so that they're not relying on the sellers to look for a stager, because that could take a while. And also, if they have that stager part of the team, then it gives them just puts them a bit like competitively above the agent. Now, so mine would be, I would say, like 80%. There are some sellers that or agents that will have the sellers pay for it, and what they do is they basically talk to them in the very beginning of the listing appointment, saying, you're going to pay for this, this, and this is what staging is, so that they know in advance how much money they're going to have to put into staging, so that it doesn't happen at the very end where they're blindsided. But for me, I mean, I kind of noticed half the agents are doing this, are paying for the staging, and the other half is are the sellers.
Yeah, another thing too that some realtors are doing is they negotiate with their seller and they get they pay for the staging up front with the understanding, and obviously the written understanding, is that it's going to be billed out of escrow so that the agent is getting their money back. That's an interesting question because there's one that, do any stagers bill escrow to the staging costs? The three of us don't. And I will be very honest with you, I don't know anyone in our chapter that actually waits until the property is sold. We have a lot of cost up front. And one of the things is, what happens if the house doesn't sell? We are then out of a lot of money. And this is why most stagers are not going to bill it, wait until escrow closes.
Great
And then,
question.
yeah. Go ahead, Jody. I think you wanted to ask us the next one.
I'm trying to, I thought I had one and then now it's gone.
I see one. It says, do more of the Los Altos and Palo Alto realtors pay for staging than the South Bay realtors? I don't stage in either Los Altos or Palo Alto, so I can't answer. I don't know if either one of the two of you do.
Can you repeat the question because you were kind of garbled?
Sure. Do any of the realtors in Los Altos and Palo Alto pay for the staging versus those in the South Bay?
It still depends on the realtor.
I think so too.
So yes, sometimes they do, and others they do not.
Yeah. I probably, of the realtors that I work with, the good majority of them pay for the staging themselves. They use that as a marketing tool, and they also know how they want the house to look, and they know that the staging actually is what sells the house. So they go ahead and pay for it themselves.
And you guys all, I think, from your bios, you guys are Santa Clara County, but you all stage throughout the Bay Area. Do you see trends within different parts of the Bay Area?
For selling?
Yeah, for staging. Do you see the, maybe in San Mateo County, they do it like this, or maybe in the East Bay, they tend to lean towards this, or is staging kind of a universal thing? Or do you stage for cultures, depending on where the house is located? Maybe you add a little cultural thing, feng shui, things like that.
So sometimes it does matter where the area is. If we're staging in Los Altos, we will probably do something quite different if we were doing the South Bay. Staying close to what that area is like. It is about the demographics. So yes.
I've noticed a lot of, it's funny, I just saw the question here, is the gray look here to stay? Yes, I'm sorry, it is. I personally like gray because I think it goes with so many different colors. It goes with different color hardwood floors. It goes with, it makes it easy for the staging, whether we want to bring in blues, greens, orange, reds. The demographics, I do get some agents that will ask me to provide some red because that's a positive color. I kind of incorporate a little feng shui into my staging. I'm not an expert, but when I do stage like offices, I have the desk kitty corner facing the door because that's good feng shui. I try not to put beds under the windows because that's bad feng shui. So again, I'm not an expert, just want to make sure everybody understands that, but I do incorporate a little bit of it based on the demographics. And with the trending, we also go by the Pantone colors, which is blue. And we start seeing that when we do our shopping at stores. You'll see a lot of the same pictures, whether they're floral, abstract, ocean, and those are the things that we pick out, and then we stage on the homes. I do a lot of properties in Monterey and Carmel, and There's it has more of a coastal theme, and also in Santa Cruz you'll see that, which may not fit in some, maybe like a tri-level home in Sunnyvale. But we try to keep it neutral, and so that we can reach a broad market of buyers.
So there's a couple questions in here, and I know this is probably really hard to answer. Is there an average cost for home staging? And it probably varies to what Pamela said: partial, full, townhouse, single family.
Yeah, that's, go ahead, Pamela.
Go ahead, Jeannie.
Okay.
Yes.
I was going to say, we don't, the three of us always like to preview a property and then negotiate. I don't want to say negotiate, but we preview a property. We find out what the agent is looking for. So if you are looking for a whole house to be staged and it's absolutely huge and it's 4,000 square feet, it's going to cost a lot more because of furniture and the time and everything else than you are looking for when you have a small 2-bedroom townhouse that's maybe only 1,400 square feet. Sometimes with a larger house, the agent might just decide, geez, when you give me that price for that entire house, how about if we just did, like Lily said, the common rooms, so that we can we'll do the master bedroom, but we're going to skip those other rooms and things because people can look in and figure out, oh, that's where little Johnny's going to sleep or little Susie's going to sleep. So they're not so wrapped up on doing the entire house. So we can't really give you a price only because of the fact that we like to go out and take an actual look at the property.
That's
Also,
fair.
to piggyback on what Janie was talking about with the price, it's not just the furniture too, but it could be the logistics. Like later today, I'm going to go do a property in San Mateo, and it's a condo. I'm going to have to park in the yellow loading area, take the elevator, and go to the 3rd floor. So those are things that's going to take at least an hour just to unload for a small 2-bedroom condo. I also did a property in Carmel where it had a long, windy driveway going up this road. Our movers couldn't drive their truck up this driveway. So what they did was they carried the furniture from the bottom all the way to the top, and they had 2 groups. So 2 movers carried the furniture. They don't use dollies. They carry the furniture to the halfway point of the driveway. The other 2 movers grabbed it and then took it into the house. It took, I want to say, at least 3 hours to stage this rather large home. So when we do the previews, it's not, again, just about the furniture, but we also add in the cost of the labor, travel time. If we're going to be, when I stage in Monterey or Santa Cruz, we're going to add a little bit more because we're driving about maybe 30 miles away from our warehouse. So those are costs that we include. So every stager is going to be different. That's why I do get some clients that will ask me, what's the ballpark? Here's the comp. I'll ask them for the comps to just give me an idea, and I'll give them a ballpark so that they can have that information to talk with their sellers about when they're doing their listing presentation.
So I think, sorry.
I was going to say, I was just looking at the chat box, and someone asked whether or not we take credit cards.
Yeah.
It depends on the stager. Some stagers do take credit cards, and some don't take credit cards.
Mm-hmm.
I do take credit cards, but again, it's going to cost a little bit more because of the fact that a credit card company is going to add on an additional 3.5%. So it just depends on the stager, and that's one of the things that you can ask the stager, do you in fact take credit cards?
Mm-hmm.
Was one of the 2 of you going to talk about that?
Oh, the credit cards. I actually use credit cards. I use PayPal. I also have Chase, depending on if the client feels comfortable to give me the credit card information over the phone, then I can process it, or I provide them with the PayPal link. And it's just a little bit easier for them. But like Janie said, we do not do any escrow, because sometimes that will take 30 days to 40 days. And as mentioned, we always have to pay our vendors up front as well. Can I answer the question on the average? Someone asked about the average cost for realtors.
Yep.
So it's really hard for us to provide that information because we all have our own operating costs. Like Pamela went through the list of what our staging fees include, with warehouse and everything. So it depends on how many designers they have on the team. I mean, I don't want anybody to stick on this price, but it can vary. It could be anywhere between, $2,500 to $5,000. It just really depends on the size of the home. Also, some stagers will do 30-day minimum, some will do 45, some will do 60. And then after the contract date, they'll do a daily rate of whatever the daily rate is. So it just really depends. I know that there's stagers that do a lot of high end, so their pricing is going to be different. So that's why, we just ask the agents to look for stagers and compare apples to apples, ask them questions. Not every agent's going to be forthcoming and tell you, this is how much I'm going to charge, but they'll give you a range. And that's why it's important to share at least a budget. So if you say, well, I remember this years ago where clients say, well, I only want to spend $1,000. That's not even enough to cover the mover fee. So that's why we always say just to kind of do a little research, ask questions, like Janie said, talk to your colleagues, see if they have a stager that they can recommend, and just do some, just ask questions to those stagers for pricing.
I was I was at a conference online, a virtual conference last week of stagers, and that pricing always comes up. And one of the stagers on there said that her average price is $5,000 to $8,000. That's what she charges for a stage. So, we can't give you, this is what an average price is. She worked in a different area. She worked in Southern California. She does high-end staging. Her furniture is high-end and things. So she's not a person who you would look to do an average, 2-bedroom condo that's in a particular area where your client doesn't want to spend a lot of money or you don't want to spend a lot of money. So that's, an important thing to share with the stager. This is what my client's budget is. And you can even do that over the phone so that, as Lily said, geez, for $1,000, we can't even hire our movers. We cannot get it furnished. And that means we're not making any money. So we welcome you sharing your budget with us.
And I think sharing the budget is really the most important. So the expectation is when we decide to stage, we have an idea of what they really would like to have in the home. Logistics is key. That tells you a lot of how much time it's going to take, how much labor it's going to take. It also depends on what we are actually putting in the home. Some stagers don't always charge by the piece. They may charge for a room. So every stager is a little bit different.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I think you guys answered it if it can get paid out of escrow. And I think you guys said that it can, but that's not something you prefer to do because then you're waiting until escrow closes. And I think, Janie, like you said, what happens if the house doesn't sell? Then you don't get paid.
Right. The three of us do not get paid out of escrow. I can tell you that. That's not something that we offer.
Yeah. So I think one last question that I had was, we talked about having an arsenal. And I know that a lot of title companies have a transaction coordinator. I'm wondering if there's anybody's job that is to coordinate the cleaner, the landscaper, the handyman, the stager, the window washer, the painter, all of those people. Or does that job of coordinating and moving all of those things fall to the agent?
That would be the agent.
Yeah.
That
Right.
could be an interesting job for somebody to be a seller coordinator or whatever you want to.
Well,
Well,
we have,
actually, oh, sorry. This is Lily. I just wanted to mention real quick that I do have some agents that have assistants that do all that. They'll send me an email and they'll send an email to me and their other vendors. You know, here's the date that we want. Can you please confirm that you're available for this date? And they have a list of when the contractor is going to be out there, when the cleaner is going to be out there. So just depending on that agent, if they have their own arsenal of vendors, you know, on their end that can do the work with them or for them.
and I have done project management. So if it's updating or remodeling, yes, you can do project management, but that is not included in the staging costs.
Right.
And I've worked with a couple of agents who do have exactly what Lily said. They have an assistant who manages and coordinates everything. That's something so that they don't need to have to get involved in that.
Yeah. A lot of moving pieces.
Yes.
Does anybody else have any questions? Do you ladies have anything you want to wrap up with? Any final thoughts? Things for people to keep in mind?
Yeah, I do have something. I wanted to say that the three of us are what I call boutique stagers, which really means that when you hire us, you are going to get personal attention. We are the ones who actually do the staging. We don't send an intern. We don't send an assistant. If we have an assistant, they work with us, but we would never expect them to do the staging. You're paying for a professional stager. You're not paying for an intern. So you're going to get us. Sometimes, like I said, we will use an assistant. The other thing for you all to ask is, you know, when we use real furniture, we like to say, the three of us, and I don't think any our staging chapter uses furniture that's not real, like not real beds. And I know there are some stagers who do that. They actually use beds that are not real. We use real tables. There's some liability in that. So if you have not worked with a stager before, you can ask them, do you use real beds? Do you use real tables? In other words, we're not using something cardboard and putting a comforter over it and assuming it's a bed, because there's some liability if somebody gets themselves hurt. So again, you know, like I said, that we love what we do and we do what we love, and we love working with you. We take pride in our work. We enjoy working with agents, and we want that house to sell as much as you do because it makes us look good. And that way you hire us again for the next one.
Also, I just wanted to add real quick what Janie was talking about. When we're staging, and especially during COVID, you've got to make sure that no one's really around. But prior to COVID, there were times where agents would bring the sellers to come in and while we're working, and that was always a distraction. And it's also like when the furniture is set up, it's kind of like the furniture is the foundation, but we're accessorizing. We're putting the lipstick, the makeup, you know, we're designing everything. When someone comes in while we're working, it's not only a distraction because they're asking us questions or why did you put this here or look how nice that is, but we want them to be surprised and happy when they see the final result. So we always ask when the agents say they want to come by later on, I go, oh, can you wait till after we're done? Because we just like seeing their expression too, not when they come in and they see the couch with no accent pillows. So that's just the thing I wanted to add.
Sure.
Awesome. Well, I haven't seen any more questions come in. I want to thank all three of you. Since I have been at SCORE, I don't know if we've had such a deep dive and informative class or anything on staging. I definitely learned a lot, and it looks like everybody else did with the questions they had. So thank you all again for joining us.